So I'm going to get on with the business of the day. KOJO TWUM BOAFO is joined us via Zoom. KOJO TWUM BOAFO is the former chief executive officer of the Ghana Free Zones Board. He's a member of the NDC, the National Democratic Congress. He's joined us via Zoom all the way from the United States of America. KOJO, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on the Inside Pages. It's good to have you. Could you please unmute so that I can hear you, sir?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Okay. So, what are your initial thoughts? I mean, how does this story jump at you when you heard about it the first time?
Well, it's surprising, but I'm not surprised. It's just an affirmation of what many of us know and many of us suspect, that one of the reasons why the people running this country don't give a crap about what is going on in Ghana, the hardships that are going on, is that they themselves are sitting on various kinds of largesses in their homes. And it's the reason why they don't care to govern this country properly. It's the reason why they have no qualms about imposing all kinds of onerous taxes on us. Mind you, this woman is the Minister of Sanitation, the same sanitation that we have been hit with sanitation taxes, increases in our taxes that we pay in our metropolis and our neighborhoods. Even today, as we speak, when you bring a vehicle to Ghana, you have to pay per vehicle almost 150 cedis disinfection tax. So I'm not surprised that she has all these kinds of monies hiding in her room. But the interesting thing, Moro, if you will, is that you may or may not have seen a very poor attempt at PR, damage control PR, which purports to claim that the sums being mentioned are not the sums in question. Well, the court documents are before me. And when you read count 2, statement of offense, count 1, statement of offense, Patience Botwe is alleged to have stolen $1 million from being the property of CECILIA Dapaah. On count 2, Patience Botwe is alleged to have stolen 300,000 euro belonging to CECILIA Dapaah, and the list goes on. Basically, it goes on. So I don't want to bore you with what is, but I'm sure you've seen it. So this attempt by coming to say that basically the court didn't know what they were talking about in and of itself is very curious. Be that as it may, we all know that the president is not going to do anything about it. We all know that this is their stock in trade. You see, many years ago, I told Ghanaians that these people were brigands, they were buccaneers, and so many years on, at the time, some people didn't agree with me. Many years on, I know that we've all seen what has happened. Look, as we speak today, there are bondholders in Ghana who are not getting their money. As we speak today, there are many people who had treasury bills, whose treasury bills, even when they wanted to liquidate, the banks refused to liquidate. Many of them had it liquidated or were able to liquidate when the cedi was at an all-time high, right? And many people have lost their means of living, pensioners, bondholders, people who invested in bonds that they thought were secure. And we have this woman who is a minister of state in this very corrupt and very moribund government, hiding all kinds of largesses in her room. And the funny thing is, they didn't even notice that it was the monies were getting missing over time until purportedly her husband actually went to catch one of them in their room. And this, unfortunately, is the state of play of our country and where we are right now.
I get it. I've heard some people say, KOJO, that perhaps you shouldn't have reported this matter to the police because then you and I wouldn't have something to say, or you and I wouldn't have a conversation to have this morning. What do you make of those? What do you make of these statements or these kinds of commentary?
Well, I think that I can't imagine. You and I cannot imagine, because I can firmly put my hand on my heart and say, Mo, you've never seen those kinds of monies before, so you wouldn't be in a position to judge what you do when somebody who works for you enters and over time has completely cleaned it out. So I wouldn't know whether it was a panic reaction or whether it was a well thought of reaction to it. But theft is theft. If you own it and it's been stolen, by all means you should report it. But the question that should be asked, part 1A of the question, is how did you get it? Because we are all aware that in Ghana there is laws covering capital gains taxes. So if you indeed got it genuinely, you should have tax receipts for what you earned. We all know that in Ghana there are assets declaration forms that ministers have to be fill on their way in and on their way out. Have these been complied with by this woman? And who in the world would have thought that she has those kinds of largesses in her room? So there are two separate issues. If you own it and it's been stolen, by all means you should report it to the police. But this question 1A is, how did you get it? Because we all know what a minister's salary is. I don't think that over the term when she's been a minister, her salaries, assuming that she does nothing, she doesn't eat, she doesn't drink, she doesn't sleep, she doesn't pay any bills. I don't think her pay will come towards a fraction of what has been purportedly missing.
Now, Kojo, I've heard some people say that by now, IOCO, the state investigative bodies, should have been showing some interest in this matter. As we speak, we haven't heard any reaction from IOCO, the police CID, and all the other, or even the BNI, as far as this matter is concerned. Oh, sorry, the NIB, it's not the NIB. We haven't had any statement from the government. The only statement which have come out, which you have alluded to, which some people have been questioning its authenticity or the veracity of that statement, is to say that there are some inconsistencies in what we're talking about in the matter in court. Now, do you think it is normal, because you have served in government before, that a matter like this has come up and we haven't had any proper reaction from any state agency, from the central government, nothing? Or you think that we should give the government some time to come out and say something about this matter?
How much time do you want us to give them? Why haven't they been reading what you have been reading? How much time did you give yourself to put it on air and deal with it as a topic on your show? So as far as I am concerned, it's not even an excuse. They are probably huddled in meetings trying to figure out what to do. And notice that she issued the statement in her capacity as an ordinary citizen, not a capacity as a minister of state. So clearly some thought has gone through this really, really dim and wishy-washy dumb attempt to clean up the mess that they've put themselves in. And it is a damn mess. First of all, if you're going to have this kind of money in your room, you should at least invest in a better stenographer or a better word processing machine, because her name has not been spelled well. The grammar is all wrong. Spacing is all wrong. And you can see that clearly it was a hurried attempt. Whoever typed it didn't even put the date until she herself has written the date and then signed it. It's a really wishy-washy and poor attempt at deception that we're not buying, because we have seen the court case. The statements of offense is in the public domain. So unless the court is intentionally misreporting what was stolen, for which reason the accused person should immediately be discharged and nothing further is heard of this matter, what they are being alleged to have done is what they have done. What we are asking is how the woman got the money. because this is a country in which people are suffering. Moro, I'm sure you have read the World Bank report that says 855,000 people have been pushed into poverty by Akufo-Addo, Kenoforiata, CECILIA Dapaah, and their gang of buccaneers, right? So, given all that, how is it that a minister is able to have Alibaba and a treasure trove that Alibaba and the 40 thieves will envy? Right? She goes into a room, rubs the lamp, and hey presto, here comes the genie, and she gets her money. Right? And the rest of us have to suffer. Today, we have a former Chief Justice who takes his stool and goes to the Ministry of Finance to ask for pensions that she has legitimately earned for over 50 years of work as a lawyer. There are many people in her position who have had to do the same. There are many pensioners who woke up today who don't know where to get money to buy medication for diabetes, hypertension, and what have you. So how do they explain this? By this lurid and lewd letter that misspells her name, has poor grammar, and frankly, nobody knows where the hell it came from or what planet it came from. Really? Really?
Served in 8 years of the Kufuor administration. She's serving this government. It's been almost 7 years. My understanding is that the husband is into real estate. The husband is doing well, I mean, financially. You don't think that it's possible that this money we're talking about belongs to the husband and not for CECILIA Dapaah, and so we're probably back in the wrong tree?
Have you read the court documents? Moro, have you read the court documents?
I have. Actually, I do have it here. I have the entire court document with me here. It circulated yesterday. I got
what does count one say?
Right. Please
count one.
Please go ahead
didn't say the money belongs
to her.
Sorry?
Yes, I get it. That the money belongs to her.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't say the money belongs to the husband.
Yeah, but I'm saying that
it said the money belongs to her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That isn't it possible that the husband may have given her the money? It's not. It has nothing to do with public funds.
So they should tell us where it comes from. And if the husband has given her the money, she should have tax receipts.
Right.
You see, either way you look at it, right? Either way you look, anyhow you look at it, a rose is still a rose. Either way you look at it, there's a problem there. If your husband has given you the money, it's capital gains, you should be paying taxes. Right. If you got into a business deal, you should have paid taxes, you should have a tax receipt. Mm. And many Ghanaians will be very curious to know how we live in consonance with government ministers who have those kinds of largesses in their rooms, and basically, whilst the rest of us suffer in silence. And we are being told to pay more taxes. Every single day, the Ghanaian is the most overtaxed species this side of the Sahara, right? And we are still paying. It doesn't get better. We still pay, right? And we are told we are giving tree mnemonics. Oh, everybody should give us time. Give us how much time has CECILIA Dapaah and her husband given us? How much time have they given us?
Okay.
And like you said, they should have been arrested by now.
Right.
Because if it was you and I who did this, we would have been arrested. There are so many people today who are under charge for much less when it comes to financial financial misdeeds.
Right.
Right. You remember the case where the former head of the procurement authority, after he was caught in the Anas thing, his accounts were frozen. There was over 45 million Ghana cedis in his accounts, right? And this is a guy who gave evidence against Charlotte Osei. At the inception of this of the government, he had 5,000 cedis in his account. 2 years later, he was or a few years later, he had 45 million cedis in various currencies in his account.
Okay.
His account was frozen. All of a sudden, all the money disappeared from his account after he was charged.
Right.
So this is habitual. It's a habit. You've also heard what Boache Jaku has said regarding the miscellaneous deal. You've heard what he said, and I'm very sure that but for what is happening now, that would have been probably one of your major topics, right? What Boache Jaku said as to what happened and the role that Boache Jaku played in that scandal. Right? So this is a government of scandal. This is a government that doesn't give a damn what happens to the citizenry. They, contrary to the narrative they spread before they came to power, they came to pilfer. They came to pillage. They came to turn us into chaff so that they can huff and puff. That's what they did.
Okay, KOJO, please hang in there because my other resource persons are definitely going to react to the things you've said or respond to some of the things you said. And if you have a comeback, you are free to do so. So please hang in there. KOJO TWUM BOAFO, what are your concluding remarks? Now the statement has been confirmed. It's coming from Madame CECILIA DAPAAH. Some are saying, let's take it easy, hold on, let's give her time for her to come and give us the full details about some of the valid questions, legitimate questions that you've asked when I spoke to you earlier. Does that change your position on matters, or you're still sticking by a position you've held?
Mo, first, let me address the disingenuousness by Alfred. Look, my friend, if you want to have a debate, let's have the debate without throwing invectives. I'm a civil engineer. I've been a civil engineer for 30 years, right? I graduated civil engineering school 30 years this year. Ask Nana, Yadantrachi knows me very well. I don't run around handing over 16 million CDs willy-nilly to my wife. You said if you give somebody 10 CDs, in the wisdom of the framers of the laws of our country, their threshold for taxation. And trust you me, there's a lawyer sitting in the studio. Ask her that if your husband gives you 16 million CDs, are you not supposed to pay tax on it? What are you on about? You mentioned Obeda Samoa. The Obeda Samoa matter is something that was nearly 30 years ago. What did you people in the MPP do with that matter? Did you not effect a whole election campaign on that Obeda Samoa matter? So what are you on about? You think the people who haven't been paid today, the nurses who are being furloughed, the doctors who haven't been paid, junior doctors are threatening to go on strike, the policemen who are paid 200 CDs, 20 CDs every year, including allowance, even members of your party, the MPP, do you think they are happy to hear that the minister has 16 million CDs hiding under her bank bed? And people are stealing it. If you read the brief facts of the case, you would have seen that it is something that has happened incrementally, gradually over time. Right? Many of us, and I didn't want to bring architect Osei into this matter, but since you have mentioned his name, I'll ask the question. Do you think he runs around handing over 60 million CDs willy-nilly to his wife? Really? You know, you are reminding me of who wants to be a millionaire. Now that you've run out of excuses, maybe you should call home and ask for more excuses, because the excuses are not making any sense. Gloria spoke about during the 70s and the 80s, there was 50 CDs, and people's 50 CDs were taken. After that matter, for how many years did the MPP and the Dankwabuzia tradition go on about people's 50 CDs having been supposedly confiscated? Compare that to what is happening today, where the finance minister of our country borrows in our name. His own company are the agents for the transactions. He makes a profit of the transactions, and then he comes to tell us later that we are bankrupt because he's misspent the money. So our bank balances and our bank accounts and our savings and our pensions and our bonds, which we in good favor negotiated with the government, has to be expropriated to go and pay for the foibles of the finance minister. As we speak today, he's still in position. So don't you dare talk about 10 CDs and 15 CDs and handing over 10 CDs and asking me whether I have a wife. When did this become about me? When did this become about me? Has anybody reported that I had Alibaba and the 40 thieves treasure in my room? Has anybody done that? Address the issue. You yourself sitting there, every morning you wake up, you're on some communication platform or the other. Do you have that kind of money sitting in your room? Are you happy? So what are you on about? Let's call a spade in our country. The biggest problem we have in Ghana is the deception and the deceptiveness of certain people. What has happened? If it had been an NDC person, what would you have been saying? You, Alfred, what would you have been saying? When Victoria Hammer even aspired to have $1 million, what did you people say? Even after President Mahama fired her, was that enough for you people? So what are you on about?
Could you way forward?
If you want to have a debate, let's have the debate without the invectives.
Right. Could you, what do you think should be the way forward?
The way forward should be what the state investigative authority should do. I before Nanaya joined the studio, I said something that she repeated, that there are two separate issues involved here. The theft should be addressed as a theft. The people who stole the money are facing prosecution. The prosecution should continue to its logical conclusion. But how she got the money, how that woman got the money, should also be looked into. Because if every government minister has 60 million cedis hiding under their bed, which is stolen over time, that she doesn't even notice until her husband came home unannounced and found the people in her room, we have a problem, because that means that's only the tip of the iceberg. And that is the reason why they are so insensitive to the plight of Ghanaians. And that is what I've been saying. There's a lawyer in the studio. Ask her whether, if you are giving $60 million by 60 million cedis by anybody, whether it's your fairy godmother, whether it is money you got from a funeral, because I've heard that one too. It's also out in the ether that that money came from a funeral. You should pay taxes. If she produces tax receipts, I have no problem with it. She's entitled to have more money than God if she wants. But if you are in public office, this kind of conduct is unacceptable. That is what we should all accept, whether we are NDC or MPP. Instead of me being asked whether if I give 10 CDs to my wife, I ask for tax receipts.
Okay. Kojo, you want to say something quickly before Kojo goes? Okay.
We have already discussed the issue of public sector vis-a-vis private sector.
Right.
And I remember saying that she was doing very well in private sector, and I was even surprised she took public office.
Right.
Because the bane of public office is that it limits you.
True.
That's the first point. Secondly, when we're talking of the failure of the banking sector, I did not limit it to the 70s. I came down to I started with the 70s, where 50 CDs was confiscated. Okay. Then 50,000 was also a problem. And then I came to the failure of the banking sector as of now, and also the debt crisis. Okay. So please, let's not, we are speaking on a platform, and we are looking at the alterum pattern. Let's look at the other side.
Gloria.
I will do. Moro.
I'll come to you, don't worry.
Mentioned it. I am talking about the things that make people in Ghana, make the populace upset. You listen to the reaction from some of the people in public. Those are the things we should worry about. Clearly, Madam CECILIA Dapaah doesn't believe in the digitization of Dr. Bawumia. So she doesn't believe she should put the money in the bank. She doesn't believe anything they say.
Okay, Kojo.
I was talking about what you mentioned.
Okay.
What has created angst for people over time.
Right.
And this 50 CD narrative has been generational.
Okay.
And I added what Kenoforeta has done to date,
Okay.
which, in all honesty, creates serious issues in crisis of confidence for people who want to put money in the bank.
All right.
Because up till today, we all have thought that having securities and government bonds are risk-free.
Okay.
Now we are being told,
Instead
hey,
of
No, we don't have to go back.
not
I think he's
okay.
made his
Yeah,
point. He's making his point.